Okay. Um, and let's see, for anyone viewing the meeting, we are operating under state of Massachusetts dispensation to conduct committee meetings, town committee meetings online. The recording of this session will be posted to the Town of Amherst website, along with eventually the minutes of the meeting. So with that, the meeting is now in session. I'd like to suggest that we get right into a kind of rehearsal walkthrough of the slideshow. But first, I'll ask whether people have other things that they want to bring up quickly, or um, whether just going straight to the slideshow would be what you'd prefer. Okay.
I prefer
Oh.
slideshow.
Okay. Lynn, could you bring that up? Can you share that?
Mhm. So I'm sending you a request to share.
Oh, okay. Just hit the allow.
So are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we could do this a couple different ways. If we want to look, we could do a run through, or I could put this in slide sort of view and you could sort of preview all the slides first. I don't know what,
I feel like we need to,
because there's
we're,
been a bunch of changes. That's the only reason I'm saying that.
well, I kind of think that what we need to do is really see what we're going to do that night. So it's like a dress rehearsal.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to read what I have to say, and I hope other people have at least notes to know, because we can time it and see. I don't know how, Tom, you didn't say how many minutes we were given.
15.
15? That
Yeah.
should, huh?
That should be roughly enough. I think nobody's going to complain too much if we go 20.
Well, I think we ought to time it anyway. And
Yeah.
I can put a timer on when we start.
Okay.
There is one, before you start, Lynn, I don't know if you were able to add it in, but there was the one slide of the school, the outside of the school with the tree.
Yeah, I added that and I also made a slide of the Cambridge project.
Okay, so you did add in the one with the outside of the tree. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so so I can we can start this either one of two ways. Dara, you can lead it off, or I can say a word or two introducing the panel, blah blah blah. But
That'd be great.
okay. All right, so I'll do that.
Ready, set,
Okay.
go.
Go.
Okay. So good evening to the counselors and fellow citizens of Amherst. I'm Tom Warger, chair of the Amherst Public Art Commission, and we are here tonight to talk with you about the Percent for Art project at the new Fort River Elementary School. We have a slide presentation prepared, and we will do this in a panel format. I am joined here, sitting before you by Dara Barris-Dixon, Lynn Thompson, and Lori Friedman. And we will be speaking in that order. We should run about 15 minutes, and then we'll be pleased to answer questions and have a discussion with you. So Dara, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, thank you for preparing this for us and everybody else on the commission who's worked hard to get our presentation in good shape. And thank you for the town council meeting with us and talking to us tonight. Amherst Public Art Commission visits public space for a public meeting about the disposition of our town's percent for art by law's value. For the first time, the inaugural percent for arts implementation is under consideration tonight. Will Amherst honor the full amount Amherst bylaw calls for? $250,000, $250,000, a huge sum. The full amount Amherst bylaw calls for. Enough to draw discussion, close deliberation, and ultimately a decision that will define and redefine Amherst's commitment to art as a meaningful piece of civic life. A sum that represents the fact that art embodies a significant, honorable, justifiable, and necessary role in public life. Images, shapes, materials, colors, longevity, and ephemerality, eye-opening, mind-opening artworks of many kinds serve to enhance the lives of its makers and its audiences equally. A piece of public art manifests this living spirit, and as it resides in a public space, calls to everyone who encounters it because it belongs to us all. Many of us cannot dream of having the resources to surround ourselves with art, to travel far and wide to see art, to organize our lives so that art influences our high spirits and open hearts and minds. Public art exists so that every one of us owns what alone, by ourselves, we could not own. The children and adults who experience the artwork our town's bylaw imagines and supports will be able to think and say, just as they say about Amherst, oh, Amherst's my town hall, my Puffer's Pond, my library, my trails, my soccer field, my swimming pool, my basketball court, my tennis court, my commons, the very essence of the community spirit upon which Amherst was built and has always thrived. It's my artwork. I see it every day on my way to my public school. Waves and generations of citizens of every age will pass by and visit, see and be seen by whatever our first percent for art brings us together to experience. Amherst percent for art law was first championed by the then Amherst Public Art Commission and its chair, Eric Brody. The percent for art was first approved in 2016 and again taken up in 2019 and approved, with changes in the air, including the very structure of Amherst governance shifting from town meeting to town council in 2019. Tonight's deliberations concerning this bylaw, which calls for 0.5% of the cost of publicly supported construction over $1 million for art, an amount big enough to draw attention. What's determined tonight may well begin to redefine Amherst's relationship to the arts and art's place in the town's identity. Its identity regarding its citizens' pride of place, its identity regarding public education, its identity regarding ways of learning and knowing and living. Art and culture sectors present us with knowledge that here in Amherst, public and private education and inspiration are tended to. Public art brings up questions that get to the heart of what manner of acknowledgement does civic responsibility owe to its constituents. $250,000 is a sum generous enough to start a young artist's career. Think Maya Lin when she was a student designed the Vietnam Memorial, or to cap or amplify an experienced artist's achievement. It's a sum large enough to give everyone who spends a day or substantial parts of their day at their own public elementary school something to remember and to tell others about, to see every day and to be proud of. It serves the public who makes up the elementary school's public space to vote, to exchange books and flowers and ideas, to play sports, to vote. The first time something as significant as Amherst's percentage for art is administered, a precedent will be set. First times are memorable, they establish character, they inspire us with hope. Tonight we'll be determining the fate of public art's place in public citizenship, public living, and public commitment to public art's place in public life. we'll be talking about a new public elementary school dedicated to public education. The fact that Amherst has taken the time to see the good of public arts existence as a necessary part of living in Amherst is something to celebrate. Today, nationally and therefore regionally and therefore locally, drastic cuts in meaningful funding for the art are being proposed. The National Endowment for the Arts, along with the National Endowment for Humanities and the Institute of Museum and Library Services, are all being marked for disruption, if not dissolution. Art and the free distribution of knowledge, books, digital arts, and all the other valuables our libraries and museums protect for us are being defunded. They're being defunded not because their destruction is cost saving or represents any meaningful percentage of federal savings, but because they represent freedom and liberty to be the human being you choose to be. Art empowers people to think for themselves. It inspires people to act in their own interest, to speak up, to exhibit their own ideas in music, dance, song, sculpture, theater, performances, painting, drawing, mosaics, murals, poetry, and prose. This federal punishment against art attacks the souls and spirits of all people. It leaves a negative space to be filled. By what? What we determine tonight will stand as a symbol of Amherst's identity and integrity. A significant piece of public art will build on Amherst's already art-loving reputation. It'll remind people of Amherst's understanding that art is not a luxury, that it speaks to a human necessity. It engages our spirits, offers us opportunities to think and to say what we think. Hardly anyone walks away from a piece of art without thinking something and having an opinion, and sometimes a new or renewed way of thinking. Talking with one another about what offers for us to talk about sometimes energizes, galvanizes, and changes our minds, or the ways we look at things and one another. Art really isn't expendable. It's intrinsic, made to help us find out who we are and what we want to be. Public art becomes something that belongs to every one of us. It affirms our human nature's nonstop search for meaning. Okay.
Okay.
Up is,
Thank you, Dara. Let's move ahead to look at some examples of
So-
art. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we
Lynn.
want to have an overview?
No, I won't do, well, if you do an overview if you like. Remember, we can call on the town clerk to advance the slides one at a time, so you can put that in as you go.
I'm not sure I know what you mean. Do we want to have an overview slide?
Yeah, let's see. Go back to the top. Okay, so that was the opening slide. So what was the slide that Dara, that we should have had up while you were talking?
That one, the one that was up.
I think that's what we want in the beginning.
Yeah, I think then the next slide, you say, I think, Tom, you could come back in and say,
Mhm.
tonight we'll have in addition
Yes.
to Dara's introduction, we're going to talk about these other things.
Okay, will do.
So
Okay,
the slide, so Tom, what I was sort of picturing is that you would do this overview and maybe just, maybe just say what this public art thing, and then I would move into the citing of it.
okay, so then what do we want to do with this slide here?
Well, this is kind of a transition into a little bit, well, I don't know. I mean, I sort of pictured it as a transition to get us into the framework of what public art is. And I was wondering if it would be something that you could do.
Yeah, what's the next slide?
The next one is just, I'll talk about the actual,
can you talk about it like you would, what would you say?
for this one, I'd say the Public Art Commission recommends citing a new artwork in a highly visible central location outside of the Fort River Elementary School. An external location will offer our community the maximum opportunity to experience this piece, as it will not be subject to the operating schedule of the school building. One area for consideration has been highlighted in red. It is visible from both entrances onto the school grounds, and it is a focal point in a plaza-like location that will likely see pedestrian traffic between both school entrances. School gardens are also a popular location for public art, as illustrated in the sculptural gates at an elementary school in Cambridge. However, homing in on the final location for the Fort River Elementary School artwork should be incorporated within the process of preparing the requests for qualifications and proposals. So what do we want this artwork to look like? Well, the possibilities are infinite. The artwork could be realistic or abstract, surreal, or soar in the trees, or it might dance across the walls of the school. Perhaps the artwork will cover the ground or climb atop the roof. It could invite exploration, participation, or partnership. It can inspire conversation or imagination. It could be a place to think, to play, to marvel.
That's terrific, Lynn.
Okay.
Hi,
And-
I'm Lori Friedman, and I want to speak to the project budget, which this is a projection. These are not exact numbers, but give an idea of how the $250,000 would be allocated if approved. These projects involve many aspects, from design to completion, which include design fees, engineering, fabrication, partner collaborations, installation, and community engagement. Project management fees, we have done quite a bit of research, and it's standard and recommended to hire a project manager who would handle the project and oversee the project from the RFQ, which is for request for qualifications, where we would do an outreach to open up this call to many artists who would send their qualifications, and then that would be overseen, and from that there would be chosen a certain number of finalists, usually around 4 finalists. So the project manager would be overseeing it from the RFQ all the way through to the final installation. There are many steps involved to get from the beginning to the final installation. The artist designs fee would encompass both what would be give the artist who is actually finally chosen, but also would cover a stipend for the finalists, who would all be preparing proposals for a specific site at the school. And each one of those would get approximately, we're thinking, $1,000 honorarium. There are other examples where artists received more. I'm going to talk about another example at Cambridge, which is the only other town in the Commonwealth that has a percent for art. So going ahead, we allocated 15% for the artist designs, and after that, I combined numbers for fabrication and installation, so you can that would cover, that would be the amount, the top amount for the fabrication and installation, but that can include engineering fees. There are many fees that would go into that, the cost of materials, and you can imagine different costs. If there were a bronze sculpture, depending on what the materials are, those costs could be higher, more or less. Insurance, a standard 3% insurance. And artist travel and accommodations, so that the artists can come, be here on the site, be here to engage with the public during the process. So that's set aside for that. We've come up with a percent for documentation of artwork and also signage and project promotion. So documentation of artwork, we want to make sure that we well document this installation. One idea is to do video as it's being as it's in process, and also to do a website that would be interactive, so that as years go forward, there'd be an interactive website that students could engage with and learn more about this project. And signage and promotion, whether it's signage around the artwork itself or any other materials that we want to do to promote the work, and to have proper signage with attributions, and thanking all the many people in our community who will be involved in this. We also have a contingency fee set aside, so for whatever over expenses that come up there. And there are other potential costs, which I don't think we need to go into now, that we think could be covered within these categories. So you can see that this breakdown of 250, sometimes we think, oh, 250, it'll be one work of art. It'll all go to that, but there are many different costs involved to do a public art project like this. There's an example here on the side. It's from 2008. So we had to run some numbers to see what that amount of dollars would be now, which still isn't necessarily accurate, because we don't know how much materials go up. They may go up more than inflation, but this is an example of an installation. I also want to share with you on the next slide, the example of Cambridge and their project with the Tobin Montessori School and upper school complex. And installation is happening now, but it actually was approved, I believe, in the call went out in 2020, and they had over, I think, 300 to 400 applicants. They opened it up in a second time and added even more applicants were invited to invite more diversity among the applicants. They selected 4 finalists. They paid $3,000 to each design proposal to the finalists. And those proposals were based on site parameters and developed in consultation with city staff and community members. There's a lot of information on their website about the project, and including their RFQ, RFP. So it really sets a precedent for us in Amherst, both in implementing how they implemented their Percent for Art program, and in its transparency as well, because there's a lot of materials available to us and through their communications. And it will serve as a valuable blueprint to guide our commission on this elementary school project that we are about to embark upon. I would also like to add, and this aside, I don't know if it's for me to add this or not, but to add that we've looked at some of the numbers as well for this proposal and the cost to Amherst residents. And in fact, it really works out to, and I don't know the exact number of years, but it works out to about the cost of a cup of coffee per year per Amherst resident to approve this project at $250,000. We hope that you will consider all that we're presenting here tonight. And the next slide.
So, Lori, I had added a 4th bullet under the
Great, someone else can say that. I won't say it.
for that exact,
Perfect. Someone else can say it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
what you just said was so good.
Okay, so then I will come back for the summary here
Okay,
and say the Percent for Art bylaw was created specifically to make possible a substantial work of art, a work of art that is going to be seen for 20, 30, 50 years by thousands of students, by all of the town residents and visitors who come to the school for various reasons. And it will be the most substantial piece of art in the town when completed. The full allocation of 250,000 that we are asking and recommending is, in our view, what is needed to ensure that we get a really high quality in this artwork, that we give the community of artists, the very best chance to bring forward the best art that they can imagine for our school here and for our town. We note with pleasure that the design of the school and the grounds is simply beautiful, very impressive, and is going to serve us well for a very long time. We are suggesting that the work of art selected to accompany it meet those same high standards. We are mindful of the large cost involved. The school project itself is $100 million. This is one of the biggest investments that the town will make in foreseeable years, but it also will set precedent for other projects under the percent for art. How much will it cost? We have seen estimates. I'll have to try to narrow this down a bit. We've seen an estimate that projects that over the 30 years where the town's taxpayers will be repaying the bond for this project, that the percent for art fraction of that is less than the cost of a cup of coffee per household per year over that period. And I'll have to think of a suitable finish for it, but
I think it's okay to repeat that cup of coffee thing. If Laurie mentions it and you say it again, it's kind of good to have it repeated.
yeah, well, that's fine.
It took 23 minutes,
Yeah, okay.
including our asides of
Yeah.
talking a little bit. So I think you could say a little under 20.
Okay. Okay. I'll do and that's what I'll do at the top at the lead in there. And at this stage where we invite questions from the counselors and be very happy to discuss our proposal.
That was
Lauren?
great to get to see it like that, y'all. And Lynn, the things you added with the slides, with your commentary about it was really terrific.
Excellent.
Yeah, wonderful, Lynn.
those
I
are
wanted
all
to add
from
one
Ellen.
thing. I wanted to add one thing, Lynn, to when you're speaking that Tom brought up in our meeting with Lynn Griesmer that I thought was a really good point. He said, we are also thinking, in addition to the work being placed outside where it'll be most visible for the public, that some of those interior walls will then be free for students to do student artwork, to do student projects, so that those walls won't be taken up with something, and it will really leave it free for students to have ongoing exhibitions and all kinds of opportunities for them to have things inside the school that they, something like that. So I think that's important to add in.
Right. Maybe take some photographs in the high school. I
I
took
was gonna say
one.
the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Their
Terry,
walls are just adorned with beautiful art. Yeah.
oh, yeah. It's just amazing at the high school.
So
So I think we want to, just say it could be short, just
I
another.
think I'll just add a line in there. I don't want to add another slide.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't think we should add another slide because we have a lot.
And
Laura, I
also, we don't
I
need
have-
to go to the high school when we're talking about the elementary school. But Lori, I think that the one thing I had about your piece was when it got down to the bottom of use of contingency, 20,000.
Yeah,
I'd be ready to say something like, and how that would be used. Or
The
could be, or might
contingency?
be. Huh?
how the contingency would be used.
Or might be.
Might
Like-
be, okay. So
With
I mean,
it-
so I guess it might, off the top of my head, just, to add in, the contingency could be used for those the artist, well, that's interesting. I think the contingency is set as this total amount, except the project management fee up to the contingency. Well, actually, let's see, the artist design, fabrication, insurance, artist travel and accommodation. Those would all be, that would be money that goes to the artist. The other money would be money we would use for documentation, signage and promotion, and our contingency for any overruns where, well, that's a good question, actually.
Well,
Do you think-
what I suggest is just say, we also have here the standard contingency line, which one uses in any project, and just leave it
Okay.
at that.
Because I think it's the project manager who's gonna figure out how this is all allocated, if it all goes to the artist and the contingency is held by the artist. I just don't know how that works.
Yeah, you could
Well, I
say
think
it's a
what
boilerplate,
Tom said-
you know.
Yeah, what Tom said, it makes sense to just call it a standard thing that's.
So
built
a standard contingency
It's
for,
based on a percentage.
You could even add, Lynn, maybe standard in front of contingency.
Well, I
Okay.
think that all these percentages are really a boilerplate, right? That we
Yeah.
picked up from another project. So
Yeah.
you could,
they're fairly
I s-
boilerplate, but they're not hard and fast set in
Yeah.
Yeah.
stone.
Yeah.
So I think they can change by a few percents here and there. It could be a 10% contingency, you know, an 8%, 8 to 10%. I think they all can vary within a few degrees. So this is just really to get a general overview so you can see that, you know, 125 is fabrication and installation, and a lot of the rest of it is money that allows the project to actually happen.
so what I have a question for you on this slide. When I looked up this, I came up with $350,000, 650, not 600.
You were right.
That was right? Okay, I wanted to make sure
Yes.
about that. And I think I will add the URL for this so that people really
That
know
would be
what that- and-
great.
And they could, you know, they could Google it and see that. I think that would be a good thing to add.
Yeah.
Question about this project in Cambridge. Do we know, is the project just what we see here around the tree, or is this one of a series?
It's
installations?
I would invite you to read about it because it's complicated.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's actually a graft, a tree was removed and there was a
Mhm.
graft done. That's why it's taken so
Okay.
long. And
Okay.
it was a tree that was grafted. There was all kinds of science project work done around this. It's very detailed and I didn't
Okay.
read it in depth, but it's not just what you're looking at.
hmm
But
Okay,
it's kind of fun to see the other proposals but I don't think they're worth putting in here, but they're finalists, you know, to see their 4 finalist projects. It gives a lot of, they just give so much transparency and information. It is a very wonderful blueprint for us and for whoever we hire as a project manager. One fee that I didn't want to bring up because I just didn't want to get into this at all, but if 250,000 is approved, then the project management fee at 25,000 would require Lynn Griesmer shared with us that we would have to do an RFP to hire the project manager. So there's some cost involved in that potentially as well.
Okay.
somebody might ask you that.
Yeah, so that Lynn knows the
There's your
exact number, but over a
contingency.
certain amount, and this, I think, is according to Lynn, over that amount where we would do an RFP for the project manager. We have, you know, an Amherst resident who has been helping on this project, obviously. I don't know if we'll name her name, but she could be a potential candidate for this position.
I would certainly ask her to apply.
Mhm.
And she's interested.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about this overview? Does this still work based on what we just, based on what we just did?
Maybe it's in the wrong place. Maybe that'll come first.
Yeah. What's the slide before it? Okay,
I think that's a good idea. It could come when Tom is doing
Yeah.
his introduction.
that's right.
You want to
Yeah.
start with an overview and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
go This?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
That first, yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
Okay.
So,
Like doing this so you can see what we actually are gonna do? I do.
Yes, yes.
Makes me feel a
Yeah, definitely.
lot better to
Mhm.
see, you know, and I think the time, I'm gonna cut mine by a couple of minutes between now and then, you know, and,
Dara, the only word that you say twice is when you talk about the other things that you use the space for. You talk about voting in the beginning and then
said
it's,
it twice on purpose.
oh, okay. I didn't know.
But I
Good
can,
point there.
I can take it out. I
Voting's
can take it
important.
out. I'll take it out,
Okay,
because
No, no, I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
yeah, because I
Okay.
thought, you know, these people are all voted into their offices and
Oh, yeah, that's true.
voting matters, and so I'd be like, vote.
Okay.
Okay,
all right,
Yeah.
well, I'll stop sharing my
Okay.
slides.
so I had just one thought or quibbles I sent via email late this afternoon. And that is I'm a little bit concerned that we're not showing project costs at, you know, more than Cambridge, and on that that one slide that's on the screen while Lori's talking. I'm worried that, you know, that question that we're hoping to avoid, which is, all right, let's cut to the chase and, you know, what can we get for X amount of money? I'm wondering whether we've done enough um, so that that doesn't snag us.
Well, I think that, didn't Ellen say that if we had to have some numbers for some of those slides she sent us, she could get them for us?
Well, she didn't provide them, so I wouldn't count on it at this
No,
point.
Yeah.
in her notes, she said that she
Mhm.
could, if we wanted something more, she could give us that.
And her recommendation was not to get too caught up in, this is what you get for 100,000, this is what you get for 200,000.
Yeah, so
So-
I'm trying to walk a line
Yeah,
where we're, you know, between having almost no information to go with some of the aspirational pictures,
so,
and on the other hand, doing what some on the council might expect us to be doing, which is to put a number on everything.
Well,
yeah,
I
And
think,
either, I don't want the latter for sure. And I don't want I don't want people to say, well, that was very pretty as a presentation, but now let's get down to talking, you know, since the counselors are sitting there knowing that they're going to have to make a dollars decision in a few minutes.
right. So Terry, you looked at the whole thing for the first time just now, right?
I did. Yeah, it was really good.
How'd did you
I
see?
thought it was powerful and it went really well with with your I want to say performance. That's not what I mean, but
Yeah.
with your talk. It really did go well with your talk.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I was impressed. You guys did an amazing job.
Yeah, so maybe you could, Tom, you could, if you just reread Ellen Kiter's email.
Yeah, I
and you'll
will.
see where she offers
Okay.
a little more, and you could say, could you give us one or two more?
Yeah, I would be delighted with just that much more.
well,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I guess worst case scenario, you could put, you know, one or two of the slides back in that I asked Lynn to remove, which were two of those older examples. One was the bronze three columns sculpture, and I think one was
Mhm.
the murals, the
the
ceramic.
murals that were throughout the
Yeah.
school, but they,
I
you
mean,
know, were
you could
not
keep them there just in case they ask questions and then
Yeah.
you could pull them out.
right.
there you
Like,
go.
Yeah.
don't offer
Right.
that, don't offer them, because if you
Yeah.
offer them,
Yeah,
it does change the conversation, but having them
idea.
there would
Good idea.
would show that you're prepared.
Okay, just a logistical thing here too. Remember that we're not going to be running the slideshow.
No,
The town clerk will. So for Lynn in particular, who's going to run through multiple slides, you know, just give a little signal or something, you know,
Well,
wave of the
I
hand.
think I'm gonna give her a I'm gonna
The
give her a
script.
little copy of what
Yep.
I'm saying,
Yep.
and then she'll
Right.
know what to do.
That's
know
how
what
you,
to
you
do.
give, you give them the script and it has on
Okay.
there, it's please advance slide here. That's exactly what you do.
Oh,
I think
well,
that's what we-
I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna write mine out. I just did, I
Well,
wrote from notes, but if you
yeah.
want, I can write it out.
no, I think
I don't know.
we can give her some, an outline that
Mhm.
she'll need, but I don't think we need a verbatim script. Um, I mean, my opinion, my
No,
opinion.
all you need to know is how long you're gonna take.
Okay,
And you could also say, would you please advance to the next slide? I mean, it's not a
Yeah.
big deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
I mean, just for when you're talking, the reason I write everything out is so that I can
Yeah,
time and
that's
then
fine.
know
That's fine.
what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I could talk forever.
Mhm. Well, your presentation piece and Lori's are structurally similar in that you're not stepping through a sequence of slides. The only time we're really doing that is, launching. So when I finish with my intro, I'll sort of signal for the next slide there. But
I thought Lynn's slides, well, with the captions under them was particularly effective.
Mhm.
yes,
I do too.
yes.
Because it felt,
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
So as long as the clerk knows that in that section, there's going to be, just a few seconds as Lynn speaks to each slide, she'll catch on. She does this for all the committees.
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Are y'all nervous?
A bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I mean, in a good way.
Yeah, because we don't do this all the time.
That
I
would be
think,
a lot of work.
But,
if we did-
Lynn, I believe, and Tom can tell you, that we need to get the slide, to them, I think by tomorrow, is that right? Or
Yeah.
when's the deadline for
Wednesday,
the slides?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Again,
Wednesday?
yeah, Wednesday.
All right, if I'm gonna try to I'm gonna pull up those other two
Mm-hmm.
slides and stick these in so you can see what this is gonna look like, if you don't mind. Um,
Yeah.
Jerry's idea was good to just hold them back. And if you need to use them because
well, you can't really hold them back when somebody else is running the show for you, I don't think.
Well, unless we put them down after the discussion slide.
So,
You can add a slide also that says end presentation, and
well,
then put the other ones past that one. That way you
Yeah,
have them if
that's
you
it.
need them.
But you
That's-
don't want to leave those up as the final word if they're under the costs that we're talking about. That would
Right.
undercut everything we just did.
Yep.
let me just do this. Show you one more.
And I mean, I would say that you could add them in before I talk about the Cambridge project, but I just think it's too much for.
Well, so that's what I sort of did. So this ends my part. And then
Yeah.
Lori, you would come in and talk, and then you can make reference to this art installation and, the cost for that.
Mhm.
It's the other example that we have that shows a mural.
That one's
Mhm.
too low. 97,000 looks too low for what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even want them to think about that.
I don't either.
Okay, then the other one was,
Except that if they want to see something that would be 100, if we get down to it, beyond the very end, in the bottom of discussions. If they say, okay, what's something that looks like 100?
I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, if we take the
here's
line,
the
that,
other
hey, we're
one
not
that we
going to
had.
share, we're not going to tell you anything other than our 250, then they're just going to close the door on us.
Right.
I
Well,
also,
we can tell them that in the beginning.
I also feel like we've done a lot. I mean, I spent a lot of time looking for things with prices and,
Yeah.
so here's the third one that we had. Is this one, the cost is a lot more. I mean, it's higher up. We could,
Yeah, maybe use that
you
one and
could
not
go
the other
from
one.
this one to this one, and at least it shows a couple of that I mean, you can say we've looked around, this is what we found, and then just jump to this one and say, this is
We can add one more in.
do you want to do that? And I'll get rid of this one.
Yeah,
So we'd
I mean, again, of course, what's gonna happen for me I just know how my brain works. When you get to the next one on the sculpture,
Yeah,
I guess it would give me an opportunity to say, we've added for inflation, but I know that bronze has gone up more than inflation, so I
well,
believe
and I
that
think
this could
that
be even
speaks to the
more.
fact that we don't, it's impossible to say this cost that.
I think it is. I mean, I just, and it also depends on the artist and their experience. So pricing art, you could get this for that is a very slippery slope.
Yeah,
Yep.
And actually I certainly can answer questions if anyone has any after, because that is one area of the art business that I worked in for many, many years.
So if
That,
this,
that last slide, Lynn, can we see it again? Is that that's that one? Yeah. I think that one is a really great ending one because it's very, very strong.
Yeah, I agree.
the
Yeah.
image of the sculpture and just the.
I'm just talking about the sculpture. Yeah.
And I
That
love
was
that.
really- I love that one too.
So does
Love
this
that.
I
work
like both
for
of
a,
those.
does this work for a first slide
Yes,
then?
I think
That
it's
Tom,
great.
you would introduce and then this would run when Dara is speaking? Well, see,
Excellent.
then this has, you're introducing the commissioners, but the commissioners are on this slide.
So, but do you mean?
Oh, you spelled my name wrong.
Okay,
oh,
where's, what is that?
It's no E,
It's Terry.
Oh,
T-E-R.
Oh, okay.
So, the,
Thank you.
when I'm gonna be talking, that's the only thing that's gonna be up. It's not gonna be moving, is it?
No, no.
It's just static.
So I'm wondering, do I want to move the commissioners onto this page? Because
No,
Tom,
they're the intro. I think
No.
they're where they are,
that's all right.
like a signature.
I
Yeah.
actually think if we wanted to take one out, that one with the quote, you could just take
yeah,
out.
I think
It
so.
just doesn't fit. Okay,
Mhm.
boink, it's gone.
But that piece of sculpture was good.
Okay, yeah, it's nice to come up with kind of a transition, and that's sort of what I was trying to do. So we kind of got this one for Tom to start, this one for Dara, and then Tom, you won't really have to come back on, then I'll
Right.
just start
Mhm.
right afterwards
That's
talking.
great.
You can just speak up. You can just speak up and begin your section there
I
when
think that's
it
great.
concludes.
And let's all remember to do what Lori did and introduce ourselves,
Yeah,
Okay,
you know? And my name is Dara, Lynn, not Dora,
oh,
Dara.
Dara, okay.
It's Dara, and Barwa is
I did that too, sorry.
yeah, everybody does, don't worry. And Barwa is Barwa,
okay, Bawa. Okay,
Barwa.
Bawa. It's
All
French.
right,
right?
so does this
Yeah.
all look,
Got it.
like I said, I'll add the URL to that.
Nice,
Very
I like
nice.
it. Looks
really
good.
good.
Lynn, if you go up to back to the Cambridge slide. Yeah, I would maybe put City of Cambridge up first and budget under it.
Good
Because,
idea.
yeah, because people were
Maybe
just
put
hearing about
budget after-
250, 250, whoa, what's this, 650?
Maybe
you know.
put the budget all the way after upper school complex.
Well, the city of Cambridge is, the school goes with that, those parts go together. That's sort of the way they identified their school.
Yeah, I would put budget right down
That's
by
perfect.
installation.
That's perfect.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. There
Yeah,
we
that's
go.
good.
Looks good.
And you want to add the URL, y'all
Yeah, I have
said?
to go back and look at what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I also noted that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting. It was actually 316 applications in 2020. So I think by the larger number, you can see how big a audience you're going to get for the work. So I thought that was a really good thing to put in.
Well, and also like in the discussion, I hope that they recognize from this presentation that this could be something that would give Amherst some real publicity
hmm
if it was handled right.
Yeah.
You know, and the story right now is Amherst trying to cut the budget for their percent of art that the bylaws were voted on and approved at one point. And that's not a good story.
And I
Mhm.
think it's also to emphasize that this will be there for generations to come. This really
Yeah.
is not something that we're talking about for another year or 5 years, or this is going to be there
Hmm.
Yeah,
many, many generations, both including the school kids who will learn and grow from it, but also everyone in the town of Amherst and people coming from afar.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think Tom, so you said something in your talk about
Yeah.
this will be around for 25 to 30 years. I think I
Yeah.
would maybe extend that to say generations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Will
good idea.
do. Will do.
You got,
Will do.
people think about how much this is worth, year
Yeah.
by year. If they're just thinking 20, 30 years down the road, they're not going to want to give as much money to it. So generations, focus on that.
Hmm. Thank you.
Historic.
And
Mhm.
can I ask you a question? So is it the kind of thing where we would do a presentation, then leave, and then they would
No.
have the
No,
deliberation, or
no.
we would
No.
just be there?
No, so we, Lynn Griesmer said that we would probably be the first item on the agenda. There's one other big item they've got that evening, but that's not going to come before us. What could displace us out of the first position is if some emergency comes up, meaning something that hadn't, that's not, was not on Lynn's radar as of Friday. And that does happen apparently from time to time. So we might not be absolute first, but we're in a good position. Not that they're going to come to us after, 1.5 exhausting hours of other stuff, which
Um,
would not have been good.
So the slides need to go on Wednesday, but who should I send them to you, Tom, or should I send them directly to the
Send
person?
them to Angela, because we will be more than 3 people at the meeting. Um, we're gonna have to do the little dance to uh, comply with quorum rules. I'll take care of that. I'm going to tell Angela tomorrow morning that we need, because Lynn Griesmer gave us this instruction that there'll need to be a declaration, which she will do, to say we're also now opening a meeting with APAC. There's nothing we need to do about that except comply with the rule that materials are available, I think 48 hours, on 2 business days in advance.
What's the other big topic?
I don't remember. Laura, do you remember what that was?
I
The other,
don't.
the other topic, it was something, I'm not sure.
I
I'm not sure
don't,
what.
but what she said is that there's a motion on the floor for $100,000 to reduce the amount to $100,000. That after our discussion, they will take a vote on that motion. If it is not passed, voted against, and there is no other motion to make any other change to the percent for art, it will stand as is. And that will be it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to, 250,000 does not need to be voted on. It
That's good.
stands. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a possibility, this is just me thinking ahead. There's a possibility that the motion for 100 might be withdrawn at or during the discussion, with the viewpoint that after the discussion, a new motion would be made. That's possible. That's
Yeah.
possible. But we should, to Lori's point, we should be aware that that motion is in place in the process and will need to be dealt with, just in terms of procedure.
I wonder, one of the things that we're not directly saying in the beginning until we get to the whole budget area is that we're recommending the full amount. So I think maybe when I start talking about the citing, say that we're recommending it be outside and that the full amount is allocated? Because then they'll
Well-
know right off the bat that we're,
Well, Dara does talk about the full amount, but I think you
Okay.
should also. I think
do you think that
what
makes
the
sense that it's
statement,
there? That this is
well, on the Dara principle, if it's a good point, let's
repetition is a good
let's
thing.
drop the
Yeah,
hammer on it twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's good to reiterate it.
Okay, so. Right.
By the way, we did a quick informal run through of this with Lynn Griesmer, including the slides as they were. She loved it. She was very encouraging, and I
That's
think very very excited.
She's gonna use the even better one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. This one passed the Terry test, so we're all doing better.
Oh, you're good then. I knew that was my okay. I'm easy though. I'm really easy.
Okay, let's declare victory on this. Let me quickly go back to one of the items I sent you via email. This has to do with the Electrify Amherst. So one more artist is ready to paint. I need to get back in touch with her, so I know when she's going to do it, and I'll, go over and keep her company for a bit. The other artist spotted spotted a contradiction in the contract that none of us have
Uh-oh.
seen, and that is, who owns the artwork? Because there's section 3 that says that the artist retains it, but then one of the two addenda added by the um, attorney last fall turns around and says that the town owns it. So
You know
I,
why they did that, right?
no, I don't.
Okay. When we had one of our first Boltwood artists um put up their artwork in the windows of the tiny little Boltwood thing, whatever. And they were there for a while, and then she wanted it back. And so we were supposed to take it down and with the expense and send it back to her. And it was a huge expense. And the town of Arlington or the town of Amherst was like, this is too
Mhm.
costly. And
Mhm.
like this, so because of that, they decided to rewrite all of the
Mhm.
contracts so that is something that the town retains the rights to the art, or I think the actual art, maybe not the rights to the art, something like that. But that's the reason for it. It was
Mhm.
because there was a huge kerfluffle, and this artist tried to sue the town of Amherst.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
not
Thank
alone.
you. Yeah, I think with
Yeah,
the,
it was a mess, and that's why the
Yeah.
lawyers are really nervous about art
Yeah.
contracts.
Good point. But nobody changed it until last fall. So that was, and that's sort of, I
Seems
don't
like
think
really
anyone,
different
I
and
don't think
different.
any of us would have had a problem with it, ex except that no, but none of us went back and changed the wording to take that ownership.
It seems
So
like
anyhow,
really
anyhow,
different.
we'll iron this out. She may
Yeah.
just accept to do it. I think with regard to the electric boxes, the the liability comes up in this, and the lawyers dealt with this, that if the artwork were to be vandalized, it would be up to the town to decide whether to let the artist repaint it or to just strip it all off or something else. Otherwise, if the artist retained the ownership, the artist under law could insist that the town, again, this goes right back to what Terry was saying,
Yeah.
that the town is on the hook to pay for the restoration, which they don't want.
Which is another factor we didn't bring up for discussion, but may come up around the Percent for Art project is ongoing care for whatever work
Hmm.
we choose, because that is not in the budget, ongoing care for whatever the
Right.
piece is.
Right.
And so for generations, there will at some point
Hmm.
be need for
Hmm.
restoration work.
Yeah,
Right.
my bright idea is to put that in the RFP, to have the artist speak to what the anticipated maintenance over the long
Yeah.
run would
Exactly.
be. Now,
That's a great idea.
we are not allowed to delegate money from the percent to art for future use of that kind. the percent for art money has to be spent on this project. Now, it can stretch 2 or 3 years, but it's not the state legislature, the state at any rate. This is what overturned the 2017 version of the bylaw. You can't keep some of that money for other uses.
Gotta spend it.
Yeah, but to Lori's point, we are likely to be asked what are the long-term cost implications. I think that's going to, we're going to say, well, it's going to vary by, by artwork. The best we can do is require the artists to give us an honest assessment. Because obviously, if we buy a big bronze statue, that's one thing, a sculpture. If we have something that's painted, that's
Good.
another.
I think paint is ephemeral.
Is
Yeah,
there
you'd have,
anything you need to, I'm gonna have to go. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you need?
yeah. Here's what I wanted to ask. This is the second piece of that on percent, excuse me, on Electrify Amherst. We have a proposal from one restaurant that
Oh,
they will
yeah, I
pay
saw that.
500 to paint. They will give us 500 to have somebody paint something suitable behind on the electric box behind them. Also Cowles Lumber, which did that development up in North Amherst. I
Mhm.
spoke with one of their representatives about 3 weeks ago, and she made the same offer. So we have money. We have $690 dollars coming from Cultural Commission. That will pay for one box plus. So my question to you is, do we want do we want to put out subject to following through with these two companies, make sure they're truly on board. Do we want to put out a call for artists for 3 boxes?
Yes.
Yes.
We have been waiting for businesses to do this exact thing. We've been
Okay,
waiting for them to
great.
say, I want art in front of my business. And we will use the policies that we have all written for this
Mhm.
purpose.
And-
So
Okay.
anytime you have a company saying, yeah, I want you to do art, we need to put
Yeah,
out a call for art. It's
Okay.
really good for
I
us.
agree.
And could they be asked to told how much it will be, and
Yeah,
if
they
they
know.
to approve,
both-
if they'd like to add more to it, they could.
Well, that's a thought.
No,
Well-
why not? If they're
Well, it's
asking,
you think about what we're going to pay the artist and then what the materials cost. And if there's any on-site preparation, all that stuff, you need to come up with some kind of an estimate, right? That would be
Yeah.
part of the process.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
it's-
would be a little,
if a business says they will give you $100 or $200, you can add that.
well, yes, I'm sure we could do that. I'm a little bit worried about starting to pay artists different amounts
I,
and trying to
I
keep
think
track
that's
of that.
okay. If you're
That's
doing
okay?
it by donations from the individual businesses, they're
Okay.
determining that.
Mhm.
I
Okay, I'll put it to them. I'll put it to them.
mean, why not?
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I've got to scoot away too because I've got to get back to work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Busy
Terry.
week.
Mhm.
Thank you all so much for all the work you've done. I'm really excited to see this come through. I'm really hopeful and optimistic. You're all
Good.
amazing. Thank you much.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Is there anything else? I also have to
No,
go.
that's all I had.
Yay. Okay. Thank you for everything. For everything that everyone has
Yeah.
been working on.
Mhm.
Did we approve
Please.
minutes from last time?
Oh,
We'll do
minute.
we'll do the cumulative minutes next time we meet.
Okay,
Great.
I'll have those all.
Okay.
I'll
All
have
right.
those all.
Thank
together.
you.
Those typically take us a half hour.
okay, thanks, everybody. It was
Okay,
really
thank you all.
really
Thanks.
inspiring.
Bye.